Ladies and gentlemen, you ever notice how the loudest ones in the room usually got the least going on? See, people spend so much time talking about what they're gonna do, what they used to be, who they think they are, and what everybody else ain't. They fill up rooms with noise, but not results. Now let me tell you something. Real power don't need to broadcast itself. Silence is focus, not weakness. People often confuse quietness with surrender, with giving up, with not having an answer. But silence isn't about lacking anything. It's about possessing control. When you're focused, you're not interested in proving your point to everyone. You're not trying to win every argument or correct every misunderstanding. You're locked in. You've got tunnel vision. Your eyes are on what you're building, not who's watching. The loudest people in the room are usually trying to compensate for something they don't have. But the person who's truly working, who's truly grinding, they don't have time to narrate every step of the journey. Silence is a sign that something bigger is happening behind the scenes. There's power in not responding. There's strength in holding back when everything in you wants to explain or retaliate. It takes maturity to stay quiet while your character is being misunderstood, especially when you know you're right. But that silence, that's where your power lives. Because while they're talking, you're building. While they're gossiping, you're growing. While they're doubting, you're deciding. Your silence doesn't mean you're asleep. It means you're awake to what matters. People who are truly on a mission don't stop and explain the route to everyone on the sideline. Focus demands stillness. Just like a lion doesn't roar while it's stalking its prey. You don't see focused people running around trying to make noise. You see them planning, strategizing, and executing. Because the moment you allow distractions in, people's opinions, comparisons, drama, you start to drift away from your purpose. Silence shuts the door on distractions. It draws the line between what deserves your energy and what doesn't. That's how people miss their breakthrough. They pause the work to address rumors. They leave their assignment to prove a point. And in doing so, they give away the very power they need to finish. When you're quiet, you can hear your thoughts clearer. You can hear God clearer. You can hear your own heartbeat, the passion, the calling, the drive that's telling you to keep going. Silence isn't emptiness. It's space. Space for ideas to form, plans to breathe, clarity to show up. The world is already noisy enough, and most of that noise won't help you grow. But focus, real focus, thrives in silence. It's the soil where vision takes root. It's the atmosphere where plans become actions. And in that silence, you're sharpening yourself. You're developing skills. You're aligning with purpose. You're learning not to waste energy on things that won't matter in 5 minutes, let alone 5 years. People might look at you and think you're not doing much. That's fine, let them. They don't need to see the process. They'll hear the results when they come, because the sound of achievement is always louder than the sound of opinions. Stop explaining your vision to people who can't see it. Not everyone is meant to understand the path you're on, and that's okay. Some people are not equipped to grasp the size of the dream inside you because they've never allowed themselves to dream that big. When you constantly feel the need to explain your goals to others just to gain their approval, you start to shrink your vision to fit their limited mindset. Your vision was given to you, not to them. It came to your spirit, your heart, your imagination, because you are the one called to carry it out. And if they were supposed to understand it, they would have received it too. Trying to make others believe in what you see before it manifests can be exhausting. You find yourself justifying why you're making certain moves, why you're taking certain risks, why you're walking away from comfort and into something uncertain. And when people can't see what you see, they'll label it foolish, they'll call it unrealistic, impulsive, maybe even crazy. But what they don't realize is that the world has always been changed by people who move forward before anyone else believed. The ones who kept their eyes on the invisible until it became visible. Your vision is sacred. It's not a debate topic. It's not for social media approval. It's not for friends, family, or strangers to vote on. When you keep explaining it to people who can't see it, you open yourself up to doubt that doesn't belong to you. You start carrying their fear, their hesitation, their failure stories like they're yours. And you lose time, you lose energy, you lose momentum. Every second you spend trying to make someone else understand is a second you could have spent building, refining, or creating. People don't need to see the blueprint. They'll see the building when it's finished. They'll see the business once it launches. They'll see the growth when it blossoms. You're not required to convince anyone. You're only required to obey what's been planted in your heart. The people who are meant to be part of your journey will support you without needing every detail explained. They'll trust your passion even when they don't fully understand your plan. When you stop explaining, you reclaim your power. You no longer waste breath trying to be understood by those who are never supposed to walk with you long term. You protect your mental space, you protect your energy, and you begin to attract the right people. People who see your worth without needing a presentation. People who encourage your grind instead of questioning your goals. People who say, I don't see it yet, but if it's in you, I believe it's possible. Let your results speak. Let your work speak. Let your consistency speak. Because when the vision finally comes to life, even the ones who doubted will have no choice but to see what you saw all along. Real power moves in silence and strikes with results. The strongest forces don't announce themselves. They show up uninvited, undeniable, and unshakable. In a world full of noise, real power is calm. It doesn't seek attention, it commands it. The person who knows who they are and where they're going doesn't have to scream to be heard. They don't need to convince anyone. They're too busy working, too committed to the mission, too focused on getting it done to care about applause along the way. They understand that talking about the dream won't build it. Action will. And when that action starts producing results, there's no argument that can stand against it. You don't see a seed bragging about the tree it will become. It just goes underground, does the work in the dark, and one day it breaks through the surface and becomes impossible to ignore. That's what power looks like. It grows in silence. It trains in silence. It prepares in silence. When you're truly powerful, you don't need the world to validate every step. You already know where you're headed, and you're not looking for confirmation from people who haven't walked your path. You're letting the process mold you, refine you, and strengthen you so that when you finally show up, you're undeniable. Loud moves are usually made out of insecurity. People trying to convince others they're making it are usually still trying to convince themselves. But when you've really done the work, when you've really prepared, you don't have to say much. You walk into a room and the energy shifts. Your presence speaks before you do. And it's not arrogance, it's certainty. It's the kind of certainty that only comes from private preparation. The world doesn't see the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices, the setbacks, the solitude. You see the same as you saw on the field. The systems that make us run are the systems that cause us suffering. The world doesn't see the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices, the setbacks, the solid. They don't see the moment you had to hype yourself up when no one else believed in you. But all that silence, it was never wasted. It was building something deep inside you. Power doesn't panic. It doesn't perform. It doesn't need constant recognition to keep going. It's disciplined. It's patient. It knows that everything has a season, and when that season comes, the results will speak louder than any announcement ever could. You don't need to tell people how great you're becoming, just keep becoming. Keep building in the background. Keep developing the kind of excellence that doesn't need introduction. Let people be surprised. Let them wonder where you came from. Let them realize too late that while they were watching others, you were working in silence, preparing your strike. Your results are the proof, not your words, not your status, not your likes. The moves you make behind closed doors are the ones that eventually open the biggest ones. So keep moving quietly, because when it's time to deliver, nothing will be louder than your results. Discipline speaks louder than empty words. In a world where everyone is talking about what they're going to do, who they're going to become, and how they're going to change their lives, very few are actually doing the work. Discipline is the quiet force behind real progress. It doesn't need a spotlight or a stage. It doesn't ask for applause. It just shows up every single day, whether it feels good or not, and gets the job done. That kind of consistency doesn't shout, it whispers. But those whispers, repeated day after day, eventually roar with success that no one can ignore. Words can be cheap when they're not backed by action. You can say you're committed, but commitment without discipline is just a wish. You can talk about your goals, but without daily action, those goals remain distant dreams. Discipline doesn't wait for motivation. It doesn't need perfect conditions. It doesn't rely on mood. It's a decision to keep showing up, keep pushing, keep working, even when no one's watching, even when the rewards haven't shown up yet. Discipline trusts the process when the results aren't visible yet. It knows that success is a result of repeated effort, not occasional bursts of inspiration. People may not notice the early mornings you wake up while the rest of the world sleeps. They may not see the sacrifices you make or the temptations you resist. But eventually, your discipline will show. It will show in how you walk, how you talk, what you've built, and who you've become. You don't have to tell people what you're about when your habits do the talking for you. It's all about you. The person who consistently chooses growth over comfort, effort over excuses, and progress over perfection is the one who quietly separates themselves from the rest. Discipline is often uncomfortable, but it's always worth it. It teaches you patience. It forces you to build strength in silence. It asks you to delay gratification so that you can experience fulfillment that lasts. And the people who seem to be lucky or naturally successful, If you look closer, you'll see discipline behind every achievement. You'll see the hours no one counted. You'll see the times they wanted to quit but chose not to. You'll see the sacrifices they made when no one else was paying attention. The difference between those who talk and those who rise is discipline. Talking is easy, but it's the daily grind, the unseen commitment, the boring routines repeated with purpose that create champions. You can impress people with words, but you earn respect with discipline. And eventually, when the words have faded and the hype is gone, all that remains is what you've built through consistent, focused effort. Discipline doesn't have to raise its voice because its results are loud enough. When others stop at the first sign of resistance, the discipline keep going. When others need a crowd to stay committed, the discipline stay grounded in purpose. That quiet, relentless effort always speaks for itself. You don't need validation, just progress. Too many people are stuck in a cycle of waiting for someone to clap for them before they move, looking for approval before they take action, needing permission to chase a dream that was never meant to be understood by everyone. Validation feels good, but it's a trap if you start depending on it. When your confidence comes from other people's applause, you give them the power to also take it away. The truth is, some of the most meaningful breakthroughs happen in silence, without anyone noticing, without any spotlight shining down. It's the quiet progress that builds a foundation no one can shake. Progress doesn't always look impressive. It's not always pretty. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it's one small step that doesn't get any attention but moves you closer to where you're supposed to be. You don't have to prove yourself every day to people who haven't walked your journey. You don't have to post every win or defend every move. You just have to keep moving forward, inch by inch, day by day, even when no one sees it, even when it feels like no one cares. When you live for validation, your focus shifts from the goal to the reaction. You start making choices based on what looks good instead of what is good. You chase applause instead of alignment. But when you choose progress over validation, something changes. You stop needing the noise. You stop measuring your worth by how many people agree with you. You become more dangerous because your power is no longer dependent on someone else's recognition. Some of the most successful people started without anyone clapping. No spotlight, no fans, no crowd. Just a vision, a plan, and the discipline to move forward no matter what. They didn't wait for someone to say, "You got this," because they told themselves. They didn't wait for someone to believe in them because they already knew their worth. Every step they took, even when no one saw it, was shaping the result the world would one day celebrate. Progress is personal. It's between you and the assignment on your life. It's not about impressing people who are only watching to see if you fail. It's about proving to yourself that you're capable, that you're resilient, that you're moving in the right direction, even when the road is uphill. Every small win you stack in silence becomes a powerful reminder that you never needed the world's approval. You just needed to keep going. Keep your eyes on your lane. Keep your feet on the ground. Don't let the noise distract you from the mission. Let your progress be the answer to every doubt. Let your growth be louder than their opinions. Let your quiet commitment outshine the loud expectations of others. Because when it's real, when it's rooted in purpose, it doesn't need to be validated. It just needs to be lived. Let your success be the only response they ever hear. There will always be people who doubt you, question your choices, minimize your vision, or try to define your value by their limited perspective. You don't need to argue with them. You don't need to defend yourself to people who never took the time to understand you. The loudest and most powerful response you'll ever give is the life you build in silence. Not a clap back, not a post, not an explanation. Just undeniable, visible, tangible success that says everything without saying a word. There's something powerful about the moment when results walk into the room before you do. When the people who once dismissed you have to pause, not because you told them off, but because your success is impossible to ignore. That's the moment when all your quiet hours, unseen battles, and uncelebrated wins begin to speak louder than any words ever could. The job offer, the healed heart, the business you built, the peace you found, the growth you achieved, all of it becomes your answer. Too many people waste time responding to criticism instead of investing that time into becoming better. They pause the process to explain themselves to people who aren't even on the same path. But when you stay focused, when you put your head down and do the work, you allow your results to rise while the noise fades. Success doesn't argue. It doesn't beg for attention. It simply shows up and silences every doubt. Let them laugh, let them talk, let them think you're not capable. You don't need to correct them. You don't need to make them understand. Because when the fruit of your labor starts to show, when the transformation is too clear to be denied, when the blessings become public, even though the grind was private, their words will lose all weight. And in that moment, your silence becomes strength, and your achievements become the proof. You never have to match their energy. You don't have to drop to their level. Every time you rise, every time you level up, every time you keep your dignity and keep moving forward, you're choosing something greater than temporary satisfaction. You're choosing legacy. You're choosing destiny over drama. You're letting your life speak in ways no argument ever could. Because you knew you had something inside you worth fighting for. Because you believe that who you are becoming is more important than proving your worth to anyone else. And when you get there, when the door is open, when the breakthrough happens, when your progress finally becomes visible, the ones who once doubted won't be able to say a word. Because success makes the loudest statement without raising its voice. Silence is your greatest weapon when you're focused on growth. You don't need to prove yourself, argue your worth, or explain your vision to anyone. Let people doubt you, overlook you, even talk about you. Because when you move in silence, you build without distraction. Every quiet moment, every step taken without applause is preparing you for a breakthrough they won't see coming. Real power doesn't seek attention, it creates results. Stop chasing validation and start chasing progress. The ones who rise are the ones who stay grounded, consistent, and unshaken by noise. Let your discipline speak, your work speak, your peace speak. You don't need to say a word when your life starts showing the evidence. Let them hear your silence and feel your success. That's the response they never expected and can't deny. Because the loudest move you'll ever make is becoming everything they said you couldn't be quietly